So picture this: Westminster Abbey, packed to the rafters, the air thick with centuries of tradition and the weight of one of the most powerful institutions on earth. The spotlight was supposed to be on King Charles III as he officially took the throne, but what unfolded behind the royal smiles and camera flashes was something else entirely. A quiet war that no one outside the palace walls saw coming. At the center of it all stood Camilla, the woman once ridiculed by the British public, blamed for the breakdown of Charles and Diana's marriage, now crowned queen and practically glowing with pride. She didn't just wear the crown, she wore revenge like perfume. And she made one thing brutally clear: this was her coronation too, and she wasn't about to let the past define her place in the future. Her family, Tom and Freddie, sat front and center, not off to the side, not quietly tucked behind some aristocrats, but right there in the heart of royal power. It wasn't subtle, it wasn't polite, it was deliberate. Kate Middleton, Princess of Wales, noticed it immediately. Her eyes scanned the crowd, not in awe, but in disbelief. Her own parents, the Middletons, were buried in the shadows of the hall, barely visible behind a stone pillar. They looked like mere guests at a wedding they helped plan but weren't allowed to enjoy. To the public, Kate looked radiant. Her emerald gown hugged her perfectly. Her smile was composed, her demeanor graceful, but inside she was boiling. She wasn't just insulted, she was raised. And if that wasn't enough, sitting at her side, Prince William caught the shift too. When he leaned in and whispered, "Are you okay?" She didn't even answer. She didn't have to. The fury in her eyes said it all. This wasn't just about seating charts or social status. This was a power play, and Kate was the target. Camilla wasn't new to palace games. She'd spent decades on the outside looking in. Now, with the crown finally on her head, she made her first move as queen with precision. And it wasn't loud, it wasn't flashy, it was much more dangerous than that. It was calculated. After the coronation, while the rest of the family smiled for photos and waved from balconies, Kate was already plotting her next steps. But not out of spite, out of survival. Because behind every tradition, every polished royal photo, there's a hierarchy. And in that hierarchy, Camilla had just shoved Kate and her family down a notch. But it didn't end there. Kate made her way to a private room in Buckingham Palace later that afternoon, heart racing, fists clenched. She wasn't wearing the regal gown anymore, just a sweater and trousers, but she carried something far heavier: her pride. Camilla was already there, lounging with a cup of tea like she owned the place. She barely looked surprised when Kate walked in. Her tone was cool, her smile even colder. Kate didn't waste time. Why were my parents pushed to the back? Why was your family treated like royalty while mine were treated like strangers? Camilla didn't even flinch. Her reply was like ice in a glass of whiskey. Quiet, chilling, and sharp. Because I'm queen, and my family belongs here now. Yours, they don't. It hit like a punch to the gut, but Kate didn't cry. She didn't raise her voice. She simply said, "This crown doesn't belong to just you, and you won't rule our future?" Camilla just smirked. "Be careful, Catherine. Fighting the tide only pulls you under." And that was it. A line had been drawn. Not with swords or politics, but with words, ambition, and a power struggle that was just beginning. The silence inside Sandringham's grand dining hall didn't feel like peace. It felt like something holding its breath. Heavy chandeliers glowed above polished mahogany tables, and laughter floated through the room like perfume, carefully staged and utterly hollow. At one end sat Camilla, regal as ever, sipping her wine, the weight of the crown still fresh on her shoulders. Across the table, Kate tried to hold herself together. Her smile flickered beneath the surface of practiced charm. Weeks of exhaustion had dulled her glow. Tabloids had started spinning stories. Is Kate too frail for the throne? And though she told herself they didn't matter, each headline chipped away at her. She knew where they came from. Camilla never launched open attacks. She didn't need to. With a single sentence slipped into a tea time interview, "Kate's a sweet girl, but the pressure might be too much. She planted seeds. Her press team watered them." Now, the public was questioning Kate's fitness, while Camilla's family climbed higher in favor and visibility. And nobody seemed to notice, or worse, they noticed and chose to stay silent. As dessert was served, Kate stood to raise a toast. Her fingers wrapped the stem of the wine glass like it was her last grip on composure. Her vision blurred, the lights overhead grew sharp around the edges, her legs felt like water, and then she fell. The glass hit the marble first, shattering into 1,000 sharp pieces. Her body followed, collapsing in a heap of emerald silk and pale skin. Gasps echoed, chairs scraped backward, plates clattered. William was at her side in seconds, lifting her from the floor. His voice cracked, frantic. Kate! Kate, look at me! She didn't respond. Her eyes were shut. Her breathing was faint. The room spun into chaos, but Camilla didn't move. She simply watched, her wine glass still upright, her expression unreadable. Only Anne Rigid, composed, sharp-eyed, met Camilla's gaze from across the table like she'd seen all she needed to see. Doctors were called, Kate was carried away, and just like that, the illusion of control cracked. William sat beside Kate through the night in Kensington Palace. When she finally stirred awake, her voice was barely audible. "I'm okay," she whispered, her eyes meeting his. "But you have to stop her." Those words burned into him. William had always played the long game, honoring tradition, staying above the noise. But now, the attack was too close. It wasn't gossip or whispers. It wasn't seating charts. It was Kate on the floor, unconscious from pressure she never should have faced alone. That night, William changed. He moved in silence. No statements, no headlines, just action. He gathered files, messages, quiet confessions from palace staff who'd grown disillusioned with Camilla's growing control. He found memos detailing how Kate's schedule had been overloaded with brutal charity visits, international events she wasn't consulted on, all presented as royal duties but assigned by Camilla's allies. One document hit hardest, an internal note showing Camilla had pushed for her grandson Freddie to be front and center in an upcoming ceremony above George and Charlotte. Her moves weren't symbolic anymore. She was trying to edge them out. William realized this wasn't just about protecting Kate, it was about protecting the throne. Every night after the kids were asleep, he and Kate sat in front of the fire, files laid out like battlefield plans. She read in silence, her face calm but her grip on the pages tight. She didn't want revenge, she wanted dignity back. Stability, fairness. William promised her he'd deliver it, even if it meant confronting the man who gave him his crown. Clarence House loomed silent under a rain-darkened sky as William stepped out of the black car. The folder in his hand felt heavier than anything he'd ever carried, not because of its weight, but because of what it could destroy. His polished shoes clicked against the marble floor with each step toward the drawing room, the sound echoing like a countdown. He wasn't here as a son. He was here as the future king. Inside, King Charles sat alone near the fireplace, a drink untouched in his hand. His posture, usually proud, was hunched slightly, like the throne itself had begun to wear him down. His eyes lifted slowly as William entered, and the moment their gazes met, something unspoken passed between them. "You've come with something," Charles said, voice low. "I've come with the truth," William replied. He set the folder down on the antique table. There was no ceremony, no pleasantries, just a quiet presentation of everything: emails, memos, testimony. Proof of how Camilla had weaponized her position, how she'd tried to insert her family into roles meant for royal blood, how Kate had been systematically undermined, isolated, and buried under duties designed to make her fail. Charles didn't interrupt. He listened in silence, the lines in his face deepening with every word. When William finished, the king didn't reach for the folder. He stared at the flames instead, as if searching them for an answer. The tension in the room was thick enough to choke on. After a long pause, Charles finally spoke. "I knew pieces of this," he admitted, "but I didn't want to believe it. She's my wife, William. And Kate is mine," William said, eyes steady. "You crowned Camilla, but she's not acting like a queen. She's acting like a rival." The words landed like a hammer. Charles shut his eyes for a moment, the weight of his crown now fully real. He didn't respond.